Why does a town with just a dozen residents still have 3 grain elevators, a saloon, and a working community hall? Hello and welcome to the video. If this is your first time here, my name is Mike. If you've been here before, my name is still Mike, but you would have known that already. Rowley doesn't announce itself. It sits quietly in the prairie just north of Drumheller, where the wind moves through empty streets and the buildings seem to wait. But if you pause long enough, you'll notice something unusual. This place hasn't disappeared. Not quite. Rowley began in the early 1900s like many prairie towns with a general store and a rail line. The store came first, opened by Mr. Deering, managed by Mr. Johnson, and stocked by Mr. Drysdale. By 1912, the town had its first school, and a year later, George Swallow was appointed postmaster. For a time, Rowley grew. Families settled, and children learned in a 2-room brick schoolhouse. The railway brought grain, mail, and news from the outside world, but like so many rural communities, Rowley's fortune shifted. As rail service declined and people moved on, the town emptied. The last train passed through just before the turn of the millennium. By then, most buildings stood quiet, but they didn't fall. That's where the story turns. Instead of fading, Rowley held on. Locals began restoring what remained, not to recreate the past, but to preserve it. The old railway station became a museum. Sam's Saloon, once a watering hole, reopened as a gathering place. And on the last Saturday of each month, the town hosts a pizza night. It's not a tourist gimmick, it's just what they do. And every so often, someone notices. In 1989, Rowley became the backdrop for Bye Bye Blues, a wartime drama set in the 1940s. Later, a short film called Rhoda and Her Fantastic Flying Machine used the town's vintage streets to launch a fictional race to the North Pole. These weren't blockbuster moments, but they were quiet affirmations, proof that Rowley's character still reads on camera. So why does a town this small still have so much standing? Because the people who stayed, and some who returned, chose to keep it that way, not as a monument, but as a place still in use. The grain elevators were restored and designated a provincial historic site. The church still holds events, and the community hall still opens its doors. Rowley isn't a ghost town in the usual sense. It's a historic village, as the residents prefer to call it. Not frozen in time, but quietly maintained. It's a place where the past is visible, not because it was preserved by outsiders, but because the people who lived it never quite let go. Today, Rowley is shaped by what it was, and by the decision not to erase it. It's a town where the buildings still stand because someone swept the floors, fixed the roof, and turned the lights back on, not for show, but for continuity, and that, in its own quiet way, is what makes Rowley remarkable. So if you enjoyed this little journey, give that like button a tap. It's free and oddly satisfying. If you haven't subscribed yet, just know I share a new small town story every week, weather permitting of course. Feel free to pass this along to your aunt, your neighbor, or that one friend who still thinks Alberta ends at Calgary. They need this more than they know. And you'll find gradient imaging on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, because apparently I'm not busy enough. But until next week, drive safe, wave at strangers, and take the scenic route.